What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to replace the screen on an iPhone 6s. This 6s was brought in by a customer, just a basic screen replacement video. First you're going to start with the pentalobe screws at the bottom. This phone was missing those screws, so no need to pull them out, but you want to stick your pry tool in there. I use a flat blade for this process. Be careful not to slide it in too far or damage the home button. I just get some separation and put a nylon spudger in. Go down the sides and cut away all the adhesive. You always want to heat up that adhesive before you try to do this process. It makes it so much easier. I use a heat mat. Some people use a hair dryer or what have you, but I heat it up on a heating mat before I start the video. You can get a heat mat for about $80 on Amazon. They're very handy for doing iPads, iPhones, Androids. I like doing iPhones a lot more than Androids. I'd rather go in through the front, get the screen replacement knocked out, versus having to go in through the back and tear the whole phone down just to do one screen replacement. But that's just me. I'm going to remove these two Phillips head screws here to get to the battery connector. Always remove the battery connection or disconnect the battery connection from your phone before you try to do any other repair, or you risk blowing your backlight circuit. And you have 4 Phillips screws here at the top. Lay those screws out in a pattern that you recognize. When you go back to reassemble it, they're not all the same size, so you want to be careful putting these screws back into place. I recommend getting yourself a magnetic work mat like this one with squares. That way you can organize your screws. That is the most important part of doing these screen replacements, is organization. If you know where your screws came from, you know where to put them back. And like I said, these screws aren't all the same size, so you don't want to put them back in the same spot, in different spots. You've got some Phillips screws down at the bottom that hold your home button in place. Unscrew those. Pop your home button off of the original screen, because you're going to have to transfer that to the new screen. These screens do not come with a home button. You can buy higher price screens that have all the small parts, but if you don't transfer your original home button, you lose Touch ID function on the new screen. So you want to make sure that you transfer your home button over to the new screen. Now, if your home button is severed and you want to buy one of those more expensive screens that have all the small parts, then that makes this repair a lot easier, but most people can salvage their home button. You're going to have, in most cases, 3 Phillips screws along the left side, 3 Phillips screws along the right side of the frame of the screen. So make sure you unscrew those and lay them out so that you can transfer those over to the new screen as well. The iPhone 6 and the 6s are very, very basic and very similar repairs. So if you've seen the iPhone 6 video I did, it's almost the exact same process for the 6s. But if you haven't watched that video, thanks for tuning in to see this video. One of the minor differences between the 6 and the 6s is up here, the ear speaker bracket and the front camera bracket. They're both the same thing. There's a layer of adhesive that goes around that metal bracket that holds your ear speaker and front camera in. You can just pull that off. You don't need to reapply that adhesive. It's not going to do anything that your screws don't do. It adds water resistance, but if you've broken your screen, your water resistance is gone anyway. So you're going to pull the camera back and pull your ear speaker out. Now you got to be very careful with this part here, because you don't want to tear your ribbon cables or your proximity sensor. But I take a pair of tweezers and I get in underneath the proximity sensor and get down underneath the microphone, and I pop that out. You got to be very careful, because it's a thin piece of ribbon cable that can easily tear. Now, replacement screens can be got on Amazon, eBay. I have someone that I buy my parts from locally, but not everyone has a local parts distributor. A lot of repair shops don't share parts and don't transfer parts between each other, but I got lucky and I have someone local that I deal with. But if you're not lucky, you can get these parts on eBay, Amazon. There are some wholesale sites you can get them from. Amazon's usually the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Convenient, because you get them so quick. Some places you can get Amazon parts overnight at no additional cost if you're a Prime subscriber like I am. Love Prime. And then this is not a paid advertisement for Amazon either. Those 3 screws on each side go back into the holes they came out of. You just screw those back in. That gives your screen and frame some stability to put your small parts in. You want to make sure these holes are lined up first. You don't want anything out of place. Home button goes down in at the bottom. Pop that little home button connector into its guiding pin so that the connection isn't just hanging and dangling. You can rip your home button flex cable off if it's hanging and dangling. Pop your home button in. Put that bracket over top with 2 Phillips screws. And the last step of rebuilding your screen is putting that front camera assembly back in place. There's a little blue film that covers a small patch of adhesive there. That's to hold your microphone down so that you can fold your proximity sensor into the brackets that hold it in place. Next, you're going to fold those proximity sensors into their slots. Put the ear speaker down. Fold the front camera assembly over. Put the bracket over top and hold it all in place with the screw holes lined up. Screw that in place with the 3 screws that you have remaining. Pretty basic stuff. It's a little more nerve-wracking if you've never done this before, but if you've done it a few times, it's basic. No stress to be had for this particular part. You drop your screwdriver like me. Now you have a completely rebuilt screen. Go ahead and pull your phone back out. You've got 3 connectors here. I'll put the one to the far left in place first, and then these 2 pop in place in order. You've got your LCD bracket connector. 4 screws here. The long screw goes in the top right corner. Make sure that that screw goes in the top right corner and no other place. These phones are pretty unforgiving when it comes to putting a long screw in a short screw hole. You'll be replacing a phone. Now you've got your battery connector down at the bottom. All you have to do here is connect your battery back, put these last 2 screws in, screw those down in place, and you've rebuilt your own iPhone screen. Save yourself some money. And before you close the phone all the way, I always recommend that you power on your screen and test it out. You can get a bad screen. It's just general practice. Power it on, make sure everything's working before you screw it all back together, because if you do have a bad screen, you got to open it up and do it all over again. I skip this process a lot. It's not necessary if you're doing it all the time, but yeah, sometimes you do run into an issue where your screen's bad. This battery was dead, so I had to plug it in and make sure it charged, so we're going to skip the process of it just charging and get straight to where it turns on. I appreciate you guys watching these videos. I'm getting used to filming them and doing the voiceovers and doing things that are necessary to get these videos up. I'm still new to this process, so I appreciate you guys taking this journey with me. If you like the video, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so that whenever I post a new video, you get a notification. Thank you guys.